Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be my favorite books of 2021 that I read. These are not all new releases by any means, but they are books that I read this year and I just want to share them with you because they are just so incredible. It's going to be hard to keep this video like succinct with each book because I'm just so excited about these, so let's just go ahead and hop right into this. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Amy Marie and I focus all about mystery content on this channel, so if you love mysteries, hit subscribe and let's jump into the first book. The first book, The Stolen Letter by Paige Shelton. So this is part of the Scottish Bookshop mystery series. This is the 5th or 6th in the series. I ended up going back and reading all of the ones up until this point. But this was a Christmas gift last year, so I ended up reading this in January of this year, and I went back and read all the other ones in the series throughout the rest of this year. I would recommend the entire series. The last one that came out was a one that focused on had a plot that was like centric around like Mr. Hyde, and it was fantastic. I'll put it on screen. I can't remember the exact title, but it was one of the best books I read this entire year for sure. But The Stolen Letter was also one of my favorites in the series. The whole series is amazing. Basically, this takes place with Delaney Nicholas, I believe is how you say it. There's no AS, it's just like, it goes right from L to S, so I think it's Nichols or Nicholas, Delaney, and she is from like Midwestern America, and she moves out to Scotland because she gets this amazing opportunity for a job out there, like looking and surveying different like books, manuscripts, artifacts, like different things like that, and it's kind of like a dream job for her, and it's in a tiny Scottish village, which is really fascinating for someone like myself who's never been over to Scotland or even close to that, unfortunately. I hope to someday because it just sounds beautiful. And each of the mysteries in this series have been so well crafted. Each of the characters are so incredibly fleshed out. Like, they just have their own quirks, they have their own ways of speaking. Like, the author does such an amazing job of fleshing out the characters. They feel so real as you're reading it. It's truly magical. If you're someone who enjoys a cozy mystery, if you enjoy something that's bookshop themed or bookish, you're gonna love this. It's incredible. So this next one is Louisa and the Missing Heiress, and this is by Anna Maclean or Maclean. I believe it's Maclean. I'm so sorry if I'm putting the enunciation on that wrong, but this is the first in the series, a Louisa Alcott mystery series. And if you don't know, Louisa Alcott is a real life person. She is the writer of Little Women, which is actually on my shelf right here. It's one of my favorite classics of all time. I have read this book. I started reading this book when I was young middle school, and I've read it to date. It's my most read book. I've read it over a dozen times. It's just so nostalgic. It's like every time I read Little Women, it's like coming home. It's one of those books for me, and as such, I'm really interested in the life of Louisa May Alcott. I've read some biographies on her. She's just super interesting person. I highly recommend checking out a biography of her because she's very interesting. But Louisa and the Missing Heiress is a mystery that takes some creative liberties and makes Louisa, before she becomes a famous author, a detective. Like, she's not a full-time detective, but she, things happen in her circles and she ends up solving them. And the first one, Louisa and the Missing Heiress, happens with a friend of hers who goes missing, and she ends up getting involved in the mystery and figuring out who did it. I would describe these, they're not like the cutesy kind of cozy mystery covered mysteries like some of the other ones I'll be talking about, but I would describe these murders still as cozy because they do involve an amateur sleuth and they don't have any like graphic descriptions or real gore to them, so it's not like a lighthearted humorous mystery, but it's nothing that's like super intense, graphic. It's still on the cozier side, like kind of Agatha Christie style, if you will. But I really recommend this. I think there's only 3 or 4 in the series, and it's been a while since any have been published, so I think the series unfortunately stopped coming out. But I have read, I think, 2 or 3 now from it, the ones that my library had, and they're really good. I really do like them. And if you do enjoy any of Louisa May Alcott's actual work, the author does an excellent job of including Easter eggs throughout the book of different ways that maybe Louisa got inspired to write a character like Jo, or got inspired to do this or that. So it's really fun to see those little Easter eggs as well if you're a little bit of a fangirl like I am of Louisa May Alcott. So definitely recommend this series. It's a great like historical, cozier mystery, like Agatha Christie style. It's very nice. Really like it. Speaking of like a true cozy mystery, this one I just finished within the last month. So it just made it on this list and it's fantastic. It's the first one I've read by this author and I'm hooked. This is called Kneaded to Death. It's a bread shop mystery. It's by Winnie Archer, which is a pen name for a lady I found out on on Goodreads, who has various different pen names that she writes under, but this is a bread shop mystery and wow. It's amazing. So the main character, Ivy, is a photographer and she moves back home into a small town, which is Santa Sofia, California, and she enrolls herself into some bread making classes because she's been going to this bread shop called Yeast of Eden. Fun reference there. Yeast of Eden. And she enrolls herself in this bread shop's courses because she's been visiting this bread shop, kind of eating away her grief because her mother has passed away within the last 6 months. She was unfortunately hit and run in a parking lot and just, you know, unfortunately senselessly taken from this earth. And Ivy is back home with her brother and her father, trying to support them and cope and just kind of figure out her next steps in life because she's kind of feeling lost herself. And she starts doing these bread making classes. Unfortunately, one of the students goes missing and the bread shop owner ends up being accused of the crime. Alea is the bread shop owner and she and her sisters run this Mexican bread shop, and just reading this will make you incredibly hungry. I'll warn you now, you will want to be snacking on bread or something. It sounds amazing. Like, I want to go learn how to make bread now after reading this. But one of the classmates in the class goes missing and Alea is put under like watch and is accused, and kind of people are suspicious of her. So to clear her name, Ivy goes and starts doing some sleuthing, and she also has this really quirky neighbor that ends up who's like this awesome retiree woman. She's like full of energy, super fiery, like really awesome dynamic character. There are just so many wonderful relationships in this book, so many amazing, strong female friendships. I love the learning more about like Mexican bread making and how like the sisters ran their shop and different styles of bread making. It's really interesting. You learn a lot about that. I like how they tie in Ivy's photography career and how she uses that for some sleuthing as well. It's just incredibly fleshed out, rich, cozy mystery. It's really beautifully written. It's like lighthearted enough to be a cozy, but it's not silly. It's very like fleshed out. The characters are very dynamic and the relationships feel really great between the characters. I love it. I could not recommend it enough. I've already put on hold the second book at my library and we'll be reading it within the next week. So yeah, if that doesn't say enough, it's a series that I'm going to be consuming it. Like the minute it comes to my library, I will be reading the next one. That's how much I love the series. Okay, next book series, we have my very first Miss Marple mystery and my first Agatha Christie actually. So until this year, I had not read any Agatha Christie. Now I've read a couple of her books and I'm loving them. They're amazing. But the one that really stood out to me was the first one I read, which is The Body in the Library, this is a collection of 5 different Miss Marple novels, including The Body in the Library. And as the title suggests, this is kind of a mystery. There's like a house party going on and the owners of the house stumble upon a body in the library. They don't even know who the woman is. Like, it's not even someone who was a house guest. It's just like this young woman dressed in glamorous clothes who's dead in their library, which, you know, raises a few questions. You know, great mystery setup right there. I especially like it when they stumble onto a murder victim and they have no idea who it is. So they have like the mystery of finding out who and how and where, like who this person is, like how they're even inside of their house, inside their library nonetheless. And then of course who did it. The reveal for The Body in the Library was so incredibly well crafted. It was just unbelievable. Like, there's a reason that Agatha Christie is the queen of mysteries, especially cozy mysteries, and it didn't disappoint. This being my first Agatha Christie, it didn't disappoint at all. I absolutely recommend The Body in the Library. I also read the Seven Dials mystery this year, and that was also really good. That one was not a Miss Marple or Hercule Poirot mystery. is one of her other like smaller series, but it was very good. I did enjoy that as well. Okay, so this next book is actually a reread. I have read this book before, but I love this series and I hadn't read anything else from this series this year because I was waiting for the books to come out. This is called A Peril by Ponytail. It's by Nancy J. Cohen, and it's a Bad Hair Day mystery following Marla, who is a Floridian. That sounds very fancy. Florida. She's a hairstylist in Florida, and this is the 12th in the series. It's phenomenal. It's a really good book. You can jump in at any time in this cozy mystery series. I do recommend starting from the beginning because I think it's fun to see the characters develop, but this book is one of my favorites in the series specifically because it's about Marla going on her honeymoon and going to a family like dude ranch in like Arizona. So it's a very different setting for her, being from Florida going to like Arizona, big setting. And I've been to some of the areas that she had mentioned in the book, so it was kind of a special connection, kind of knowing exactly firsthand how she felt. But even if you haven't been to like a southwestern part of the United States, I think it was still like a really fun read. And the murder mystery is just really fun because they're out of their normal cozy sleuthing like in the town. Her husband is a detective, and it's just a fun mystery to kind of see them pairing together on their honeymoon. Not exactly the most romantic honeymoon. And also all of his family is around her, so she's not exactly pleased with the setup for the honeymoon. She was kind of wanting to go to like a beach, just the two of them, which I think they end up doing like later on or something. But it's really just a fun mystery. As much as I love the cozy towns, like small town settings that cozy mysteries usually have, it's fun to see the characters go on a vacation and kind of be out of their element, and it's kind of fun to see them have to connect with people that they've never met before, because a lot of times cozy mysteries rely on the characters knowing who like the town gossip is and who they can go to for like this information because they know the town really well. But this one, she doesn't know anyone except for her husband, so she's really out of the dark. And there's also a lot of fun facts and interest about like mining in this book, so it's just a really unique cozy mystery. I think the setting is pretty unique. I think there's some like interesting history that's like thrown in there, so I really recommend it for the setting alone. It was just really fun to read. But the series, the Bad Hair Day mystery series, I would definitely recommend. I would start from the beginning if you want to. It's just, I think Facials Can Be Deadly is the first one, or Permed to Death. I think that was the first one. I'll put it on the screen. But they're all amazing. I've read almost all of the series so far, and that's like, I don't know, 15 or 16 books have come out now. I've read almost all of them, and they've all been consistently really good, so I definitely recommend the series. So the next book we have is a Sherlock Holmes book. This is the Sherlock Holmes Volume 1, and I specifically read A Study in Scarlet. That was my very first Sherlock Holmes that I read this year, and it's also the first in the Sherlock Holmes narrative as well, and it didn't disappoint. Just like Agatha Christie, there is a reason Sir Conan Arthur Doyle and Sherlock Holmes are such a famous, it's just such a famous work. There's a good reason for it. It was incredible. It's one of those mysteries that's both the Agatha Christie and the Sherlock Holmes, unlike the amateur sleuths and some of the cozy mysteries that come out today, it's not as easy to pick who did it. Or you might be able to guess who did it, but you're not going to be able to guess how exactly they did it because you may not have all the details. The protagonists of both the Agatha Christie and the Sherlock Holmes, they both kind of tend to maybe withhold information, so you don't exactly know what they're thinking, unlike a lot of the traditional cozy mysteries where you are really inside the protagonist's head, so you're seeing everything they do. You have just as much information as they do. So if that would bother you, keep that in mind. However, I highly recommend A Study in Scarlet. It's only like 120 or 140 pages, so I'm not even sure if that's considered a novel. I think it's a novella, really. So it's a pretty short read, but it's really good. It's a great introduction to the character, and I'm definitely getting ready to read my next one. I'm so excited. So I just had to throw it in there. I know if you're a mystery lover, you probably are already aware of how awesome Sherlock Holmes is, but I thought I would throw it in there in case you haven't read it like me. It's really good. I highly recommend it. So the next one we have, this is our last super cozy mystery, and this is the Library Lovers mystery series. So I have the latest one from the library I read, which is Read It and Weep. It's by Jenn McKinlay, who is possibly my favorite cozy mystery writer, at least a contemporary one. I really love Nancy J. Cohen too, but I think she only has the one, the Bad Hair Day mystery series, and Jenn McKinlay has both this one and a Cupcake Bakery mystery series, which I also adore and did read a handful of them throughout this year as well, and they were all excellent. So I would recommend that as well. I'll link those in the description along with everything else if you are interested. This is the 5th one, I believe, in the series. The first one is called Books Can Be Deceiving, which is fantastic pun on looks can be deceiving. So the first book starts out with Lindsay. She has just become the director of a library in Briar Creek Public Library, which is a small coastal town, like kind of on the east coast of the United States. I don't think it says specifically which state, but it's assumed to be like an east coast state, I believe, in the series. And she quickly becomes friends with Beth, who is the children's library director. And basically a New York editor comes into town, and Beth's boyfriend is a famous author of different books, including children's books. And what ends up happening, and this is all in the summary, so no spoilers, what ends up happening is that Beth and Lindsay find Beth's boyfriend murdered, and a bunch of different secrets come out about the boyfriend. He's very unliked. Lindsay never really quite understood why Beth was with him, because he did treat her terribly along with a lot of other people. But Beth is the prime suspect, being his girlfriend. So Lindsay goes on this quest to figure out what happened, and it's an excellent book. This one here might be my favorite so far. They've all been really good, but this one combines theater with it. In later books, they form a crafternoon club, which is a bunch of different ladies at the library who get together to do crafts like knitting, card making, while they discuss the book read of the week or the month, I want to say, and they read different classic books, and it's kind of fun to hear their commentary on it too, because a lot of them you'll probably recognize as well. Like one of them, they were talking about Rebecca, which is one of my personal favorite classics, so it was really fun to hear their commentary on it. And two of the members in it, a mother and daughter, are theater like actresses, and they also direct plays and stuff, and they get Lindsay and a lot of the ladies and the town involved in this Shakespeare production of A Midsummer's Night Dream. And a famous actor friend of Violet's comes into town, and there's just a bunch of different mysteries that go on. There's murder, there's like attempted murder, there's a lot of different things going on with this book, but what I really appreciate about Jenn McKinlay's writing is that she pulls it together so neatly. Like the minute you read the reveal, it's this perfect aha moment every single time that you read one of her books. It all comes together, it just makes so much sense. The characters are really well fleshed out, you really want to root for them. You feel, when they're angry, you feel angry. If they're sad, you feel sad. Like you really feel and are able to put yourself in the character's shoes very easily. She makes it very easily to do that, and you end up really loving and caring about the whole town and the characters in the town. I couldn't recommend this series enough. I read the first one, Books Can Be Deceiving, at the very beginning of this year, and since then I've read up to 5 in the series now. There are, I think, at least 10 out right now, so there's still a good few more for me to go through, and I'm just really excited for this. I didn't know if I could love other series by Jenn McKinlay as much as the Cupcake Bakery one, because that was the first one I read by her, so I thought maybe I'd be biased towards it, but this one ended up being just as unique and well crafted, and I might even like it more. I might like it more. I really love the Cupcake one too. That's fantastic, don't get me wrong, and I'll continue reading it. I love it, but I might like this one more. And if you love a bookish cozy mystery, this is probably right up your alley. Okay, and last one I wanted to throw in here. This is called The Haunted Old West. It's by Matthew P. Mayo, and this is it combines nonfiction and fiction, but if you're interested in mysteries, you might really enjoy this. It tells tales throughout southwestern and just western USA in general, of phantom cowboys, spirit-filled saloons, mystical mine camps, and spectral Indians, and all of these different just different ghost stories, really. So if you're kind of interested in hearing different ghost stories, tales of the supernatural, it goes, and each chapter will go over a different ghost story from a different location, and what it will do is it starts off with a fictional retelling of the tale, and then it'll, at the end of that chapter, give you a nonfiction rundown of what like factually has happened. Like, what was there an actual like murder that happened there that caused like a ghost to be haunting the place, what people report nowadays. So it's a really cool way that it like combines both a fictional telling of these ghost stories, which really brings them to life, but then it also goes over the very real like reportings, sightings, and like results of those ghost stories, I guess, like today, and how they affect people today. So I find it really interesting. I really hope he writes more books like this, because I thought it was a super interesting one. So this is The Haunted Old West, again by Matthew P. Mayo, and yeah, I would really recommend it. It was a really interesting read. It's not usually something I'd pick up, because I'm not as big on supernatural mysteries. I'm not entirely, like, I kind of believe in ghosts. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the topic, honestly. Let me know how you feel about it, but I did find this to be really compelling storytelling and just very interesting, and it was really fun to visit all these different areas throughout the US and just kind of read about them and different like things that happened in the past, like especially with pioneers, cowboys, people who are traveling out west. There's a lot of stories and emphasis on that, and like old mining towns, so it's just really interesting again. So that is the end of my favorite books of 2021. If you enjoyed this, please let me know down in the comments and share with me what your favorite book or books of this year were. I would love to hear it. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content coming soon. I do upload weekly, and this entire channel is focused primarily on mystery content. So if you're a mystery lover like me, hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!